to Lesson 2, European Laws. This chapter will provide an overview of the evolution of the European legal framework for food. Key stages are highlighted, from the early standards of identity to the shift towards mutual recognition and harmonization, to the European Union's response to food crisis, and the establishment of the European Food Safety Authority. Special focus is given also to the hygiene package and the common agricultural policy, showing how each reform has shaped food production, quality standard, and rural development across Europe. Starting from the principle, the Green Paper on European food legislation was published on the 30 April of 1997, and it sets out the main objective of the European Union food law, and these are ensuring a high level of protection for health, safety, and consumer interest, promote the free movement of goods within the internal market, and enhance the competitiveness of the European food industry, improving its export potential. The European Commission aimed to cover the entire food chain following the from farm to table principle and to make sure that common rules are properly implemented and monitored across all member states. And to achieve these objectives, the Green Paper examined several key aspects. These include whether the same general rules can apply to both agricultural production and food processing, despite structural differences, or extending the producer liability for defective products to primary agricultural goods, or applying the subsidiarity principle appropriately in food law, introducing the new legal definitions such as food product, ensuring independence and objectivity of scientific advisory committees, and regulating labeling and marking in a way that it is informative but not overly detailed for consumers, so easy to read. Then the White Paper on Food Safety was published on the 12th January of 2000, and it followed up on the Green Paper and makes food safety a top priority for the European Union. It proposed a new legal framework covering the entire food chain, including also animal feed, to ensure high protection for both consumers and producers. The White Paper introduced product traceability through all the food chain, increase transparency and accountability. And it also highlighted the need for rapid and effective safeguards in case of health emergency at any stage of the chain. And regarding controls, the white paper suggested to develop a community framework to guide national control systems, taking into account best practices and the Commission's inspection experience. Finally, the White Book strengthens the communication of food safety information to consumers, boosting the public awareness and trust. As shown in this slide, the European Union food regulatory framework can be divided into two main parts: mandatory legislation and voluntary schemes under the Common Agricultural Policy. The mandatory laws, like the hygiene package, set strict rules to ensure food safety across the entire supply chain. And this includes the general principles of food law, hygiene rules for all food products, and specific rules for products of animal origin, and official controls to ensure compliance. All producers, whether they make mozzarella or any other food, must follow these rules. On the other hand, voluntary schemes allow producers to participate in quality programs if they choose. The most important of mandatory laws is the hygiene package set up in 2004. It is a set of legislative acts designed to ensure the safety and the hygiene of food throughout the supply chain. These include a first attempt to the hygiene package made in 2002 with the regulation number 178 that described the general principles of food laws and the establishment of the European Food Safety Authority. Then we have altogether the regulation number 852-853 and in 2017 the 625. The regulation number 852 talked about the hygiene of foodstuff, while the 853 was regarding the specific hygiene rules for food of animal origin, while the last but not least, number 625 was about the official control and enforcement across all the agri-food chain. Voluntary schemes also support short supply chains and local market, helping both producers and consumers while promoting regional identity. A key example is the regulation number 1151 of 2012, which governs the use of PVO, PGI, and TSG labels. These designations are optional, so producers are not required to follow this regulation unless they wish to market their products under a certified label. Once registered under such a scheme, however, producers must adhere strictly. And this voluntary framework also includes other EU-supported initiatives, such as the organic production of the Regulation 2018 number 848, or the mountain product and optional quality terms, or again, the local or national quality schemes aligned with the common agricultural policy objectives. To understand today's European food safety system, it is important to look back at its main stage of development that were four phases. The first one was Genesis, so from the 1960s to the mid-1980s, the focus was on building a common market and to harmonize product standards. This was the so-called Genesis phase to ensure the free movement of food and create a single market without distorting competition, the current European food law was developed. Initially, its main goal was, of course, economic, removing trade barriers between member states as public health and consumer protection were not yet included in the founding treaties. So these aspects were only introduced later with the Single European Act in 1986 and the Maastricht Treaty in 1992. However, harmonizing very different national regulation was complex and challenging. So to address this, the European Community adopted around 50 vertical directives or recipe laws, defining the composition of individual foods. The focus at that stage was primarily on preventing fraud and creating a fair, unified market, laying the foundation for today's European food regulation system. Then, between 1986 and 1997, we entered in the so-called new approach. So the second phase, based on mutual recognition. From 1985 onwards, the European approach to food regulation changed significantly. The idea of imposing uniform standards across all member states was replaced by the principle of mutual recognition, meaning that products legally sold in one country should be accepted in another, as long as they provide the same level of protection, of course. This shift helped preserve national food traditions by moving from vertical product-specific rules to more horizontal legislation focused on public health, consumer information, and fair business practices. The harmonization became mainly about protecting public health, while clear food labeling allowed consumers to make informed choice instead of banning products. Despite these reforms, the emphasis remained on market integration, and by 1992, the European Union food law was still fragmented and lacked a truly common food policy. After the mad cow disease and other scandals, between 1997 and 2001, a stronger European food risk management system took shape, followed by an emergency phase between 1997 and 2002. So the European Union underwent a major shift in food safety governance, triggered by a series of food crises, as I told you before, most notably the mad cow disease. And this crisis exposed the weakness of the existing regulatory system and highlighted the need to prioritize food safety and public health protection alongside market integration. So the European Commission recognized that only safe food should be allowed on the market. And this change began with the Green Paper, which launched a debate on food legislation, but also proposed the key principles and definitions and stressed that safety must always be a priority, not only during crisis. So this period marked the start of the Europeanization of food risk, with public health and consumer protection becoming central goals of the European Union policy. The Treaty of Amsterdam further reinforced this priority as fundamental objectives of European integration. In May 1997, the Commission published the Communication on Consumer Health and Safety, introducing new governance models aimed at strengthening scientific advice and food safety controls. This new approach was built on three core principles: the separation between legislative and scientific function, the separation between legislative responsibility and control or inspection function, and an increased transparency in all decision making and monitoring activities. A harmonized inspection system was introduced along the entire food chain from farm to table, with controls based on risk assessment and audits carried out by the Food and Veterinary Office in Dublin. The reform aimed to base decisions on independent scientific advice, establishing a clear separation between the risk assessment, so scientific analysis, and risk management, that are policy decisions. In 1999, the expert proposed the creation of a European Food Authority to strengthen independence, transparency, and scientific excellence. So, following further crises such as BSA, so the mad cow, and dioxin contamination, the Commission published the White Paper on Food Safety in 2000, calling for a major overhaul of the European Union food policy. It proposed an integrated farm-to-fork approach, the establishment of the European Food Authority for Risk Assessment and Communication, and 84 legislative measures covering all aspects of the food chain. These reforms aim to restore consumer confidence and ensure a high uniform level of food safety through all the European Union. In January 2002, the European Commission transformed the White Paper on Food Safety into the Regulation number 178 of 2002, establishing a comprehensive legal framework for the European Union food law and creating the European Food Safety Authority, EFSA. The regulation applies to both European Union institutions and member states and covers the entire chain from farm to fork. Its main goal was to ensure a high level of protection for human health and consumer interest while maintaining the smooth functioning of the internal market. It did so by defining general principles, obligations, and procedures on food safety, and also by creating an independent agency such as the EFSA to provide scientific advice and to support the decision making. Ensuring that European citizens have access to safe, high quality food so was a key priority of the European Union. The food crisis in the 1990s highlighted the need for common principles and requirements for food and feed legislation. In response, so the European Commission developed an integrated from producer to consumer approach outlined in the white paper on food safety, covering the entire food chain. So from primary production to processing, storage, transport, and also retail. In 2004, a new legislative framework known as the Hygiene Package was introduced as part of these strategies. It includes regulation of food hygiene, such as regulation number 852 or 853, official control, so 854 and 882, now that are replaced by a new regulation in 2017 named 625 and also additional specific measures. So the responsibility for the food hygiene is assigned to operators in the food chain through a self-regulation system based on AHCCP, supervised by official control. The pyramid shown in the figure summarizes the structure of the hygiene package. So at the base are rules on microbiological criteria and transitional measures, followed by regulation on official controls and food or feed hygiene, culminating with the regulation 178 at the top, which sets out the general principle of the European Union food law. The European Union's food safety system is built on several key regulations. As you may recall, the Regulation 178 of 2002 sets the general principles of food law, established the European Food Safety Authority as an independent scientific authority, and introduced tools like the Rapid Alert System for food and feed to manage risks along the food chain from farm to fork. The Regulation 852 of 2004 sets general hygiene rules, placing responsibility on food business operators and promoting the HACCP system. The Regulation 853 of 2004 complements this with specific hygiene rules for food of animal origin, including meat, fish, and dairy, requiring strict temperature control, traceability, and safety checks. The Regulation 854 of 2004 again governs official controls on products of animal origin, including ante and post-mortem inspection, while Regulation 183 of 2005 addresses the feed hygiene, requiring registration, good practices, and again the HACCP across the supply chain. The Regulation 882 of 2004 later replaced with the 854 with the Regulation 625 of 2017 established the framework of official control across the agri-food chain, covering imports, animal welfare, and online sales with targeted unannounced inspection. Finally, we have several regulation of 2005 that defines microbiological criteria such as the 273, 74, 75, and 76 that set specific hygiene standards and control measures to ensure a high level of food safety. The Common Agricultural Policy, established by the 1957 Treaty of Rome, was created to ensure food security, stabilize prices, and overcome the national protectionism. Initially based on guaranteed prices, it led to overproduction and rising costs, prompting reforms such as the McSherry reform in 1992 and the Fischler reform in 2003, which shift the common agricultural policy towards market orientation, rural development, and sustainability. The 2013 reform and the current 2023-2027 Common Agricultural Policy further emphasize the environmental goals, biodiversity, climate action, fair income distribution and support for young farmers. A major evolution of the Common Agricultural Policy has been the introduction of quality schemes like PDO, PGI, and TSG, which protect product authenticity and the geographic links. Through its second pillar, the Common Agricultural Policy funds producers joining these schemes, covering certification, technical assistance, and promotion. It also supports organic farming, traceability, and labeling, and ties subsides to environmental and social standards. Promotional campaigns in and beyond the European Union strengthen the visibility and the credibility of certified European products, enhancing their competitiveness and global reputation. The European Union and the Common Agricultural Policy recognized the importance of local and traditional production, supporting it through various measures. In this context, the European framework for certifying typical products was created, serving also as a tool for rural development by fostering local socioeconomic growth. The first legislation was introduced in 1992 with Regulation 282 and Regulation 281 concerning the Traditional Specialty Guarantee (TSG) for agri-food products. Then, the regulation of 2082 was repealed by the one of 2006 named 509, which largely maintained the previous framework without major innovation. But the most significant change came in 2006 with regulation number 509 and 510, which established an innovative and internationally recognized system for the PDO and PGI certification. Regulation 510 of 2006 detailed the contents of the product specification in the article number 4 and the procedure for registering new names in the article number 5. A major innovation is the single document, which gathers key information about the product and its link to its geographical origin. During the registration process, the member state plays a central role by managing the national opposition phase and ensuring temporary protection of the name until the final. The Regulation 509 of 2006 introduced a community register for recognized TSGS and required that application be submitted by producer association. However, the regulation attracted limited interest from producers, as reflected in the small number of certified products. So later, the Regulation 509 and 10 were replaced by Regulation 1151 of 2012, which was itself repealed by the more recent Regulation 1143 of 2024. This latest regulation aimed to enhance the European Union's food quality policy, protect its cultural, gastronomic, and local heritage, and ensure certified authenticity, both within the European Union and globally. It also strengthened the system of the geographical indication for wines, spirit drinks, and agricultural products. So, boosting the visibility and the competitiveness of European products all over the world. The certification system is a key process designed to ensure that the agri-food products meet specific standards such as quality, safety, and production standards through all the entire supply chain. Accredited inspection and certification bodies issue a written attestation confirming that products or control system comply with the established requirements. Supporting this process, the International Standard Organization (ISO) develops guidelines and rules for inspection, tests, and certifications. This summary diagram illustrates the main step of the certification procedure. So it begins with a producers or processor association submitting an application to the Ministry of Agriculture, accompanied by technical documents and product specification. If the outcome is positive, the application is published in the Italian Official Gazette to allow objection from interested parties. The request is then forwarded to the European Commission, which, after further evaluation, published the name in the official journal of the European Union. Finally, the product is entered into the community register and the certifying body is authorized to verify the compliance with the product specification. This process ensures the authenticity, quality and traceability of certified agri-food products. In this case, we made the example of Italy, but the same procedure is issued in all the members of the European Union. The Regulation 823/87 defines quality wines produced in specified regions as wines that comply with both the provision of this regulation and relevant national rules. These wines must originate from designated wine growing areas known for producing wine with distinctive quality characteristics. The term also encompasses quality sparkling wines produced in specific region, provided that they meet additional criteria outlined in related regulation. The European quality certification system relies on cooperation between three key levels: the European Commission, the national ministries, and accredited certification bodies. The Commission not only sets harmonized rules, but also fosters cooperation among member states, also protects producers from unfair competition, and ensures transparency and sustainability for consumers. At the national level, ministries of agriculture act as intermediaries, overseeing the accreditation of certification bodies, coordinating inspection and verifying compliance, as well as combating fraud and misuse of quality labels. Accredited certification bodies such as the CSQA or Valoritaria, in Italy of course, are independent organizations authorized to perform detailed inspections across the entire supply chain, from farming practices to processing, packaging, and labeling. This system brings multiple benefits because it ensures transparency and sustainability through all the food supply chain, strengthening the consumer trust in quality labels. Moreover, at the same time, it supports the rural development and the environmental protection while improving the market access. Furthermore, the certified products gain greater recognition and access to additional funding, enhancing their value both nationally and internationally. This figure illustrates the four key phases of the work of these associations. First, we have accreditation, so ensuring competence and impartiality. Then we have verification, so examining documents and production practices. Hence, we have reporting, so issuing certificates of conformity. And finally, we have supervision, so carrying out regular inspection to ensure the ongoing compliance. So together, these four levels form a comprehensive system that safeguards quality and authenticity, enhances consumer trust, and supports the rural development and market opportunities for certified products. Thank you and keep learning.